You know, guys, I always love playing with Light Lens Lab lenses because as a company, they pay homage to some very rare, hard to find, and incredibly expensive optics that most of us will never get a chance to shoot. And so this gives us a chance to get an idea of the character and the look of a lot of these classic lenses without paying those antiquated collector dollars. At the same time, Light Lens Labs company do modernize these lenses for modern sensors and make some meaningful improvements. And so I'm really excited to play with this. This is their latest one. This is a copy of the Leica 35mm f1.4 Summilux double aspherical lens. These were made in the early 90s and only for a few years. Now, the original Leica model, made for M-mount of course, was designated the 11873 model, and Light Lens Lab is using that exact same designation. And I really want to get into the look of this lens, but before I do that, I just want to say we are in Alberta right now shooting the episode, but my sample galleries are from Tokyo. I had a recent trip there. I was able to take this lens with the M11P. What a great place to shoot sample galleries. So please enjoy those while you see us here in sunny Alberta. I'm Chris Niccolls, this is PetaPixel, and the handling on this lens, we've got a lot to talk about. Now, as a side note, I've been shooting the M11P quite a bit more nowadays, and I'm really enjoying this rangefinder experience. Leica actually gave us this as a long-term loan so that we can test out a lot of the lenses on the proper 60 megapixel sensor in here. But I'll be honest with you, the M11P, it's beyond my price range. It's beyond a lot of people's price range. So I highly suggest going to KEH.com because first off, KEH.com are the experts when it comes to Leica. They know how to look for damaged shutters or dirty rangefinders. They know how to look at these things and evaluate them properly and then price them accordingly. But also when you buy a camera used, not only providing it a second home, but you're saving a lot of money. They're going to give you clear indications of any visual damage on the camera, what accessories come with it, and anything that you need to know to make an informed decision. There's also a generous return policy if you change your mind. And on there as well, you'll find all sorts of lenses, accessories, accessory grips, battery straps. KEH.com has it all. You should definitely check it out. We love the website. They are PetaPixel's official pre-owned camera gear partner. So we got to talk about the design here. I mean, Light Lens Lab always does a great job of very faithfully reproducing the original look, but this one is almost exact. I mean, all of the numbers are etched in here and then filled with paint. It looks very Leica, the plastic red dot there, the size, the shape. You would absolutely be forgiven for thinking this is the original if you didn't see the Chinese characters on the bottom of the barrel here or look in the front of the lens and see Light Lens Lab. This is actually very faithfully reproduced. The original used a unique hand-polished double aspherical formula, and this copies the exact same formula. We got the same elements and the same number of groups, the same double aspherical design. Even the aperture blades are designed in the same way. You get this beautiful 10-bladed aperture that starts out with a fairly polygonal shape, but as you get around f4 to f9, it takes on this star pattern. More about that later. And then when you get into your tightest apertures, a nice round opening. Now, these come in a few different colors. I've got the black paint model right now, which is classic. There's also a nice chromed version. And Light Lens Lab does make a more limited titanium version as well. Beautiful champagne finish, slightly heavier. That's about 300 grams in weight. The one that I'm testing here, the black paint, this is 270 grams. So nice, compact feel, beautifully machined aperture ring, beautifully machined focus ring. Everything feels very Leica. On the back of the lens here, you'll see that nice chromed lens mount surrounding a brass helicoid. Again, faithful to the original. You will notice though, there's no 6-bit coding on here, so it's not going to transmit EXIF data to your camera. Now, you might love or hate this word, lens character. I know we talk about it, but that's the whole reason to buy these Light Lens Lab lenses. They're designed to capture the essence, the character, the look, and dare I say, absolutely the faults and imperfections of older lenses and older technology. And they do a beautiful job at that. Now, the original Leica lens was famous for having these hand-polished double aspherical elements, which in the early 90s was very difficult to do. We take for granted how easy it is to do things now with computer design formulas and molded aspherical elements and all this kind of stuff. I mean, back in the day, it required a lot of hard work and technical precision. Now, the original Leica lens also had lanthanide infused glass elements, which gave this characteristic glow at wider apertures, that Leica look. And Light Lens Lab has copied that exact same thing with their own lanthanide infused elements. The first thing I noticed though, that I'm going to touch on is flare right off the bat. So this lens in the sun does some pretty crazy stuff with flare. At wider apertures, you're still going to get purple glow, you know, just like ghosting all over the frame, fairly soft, and contrast is actually still quite good. When you stop the lens down to tighter apertures, you will absolutely get a very strong purple ghosting effect across the frame. Like it or not, that's the look of this lens, and I'd say it's probably even reduced from the original samples that I've seen online. The other thing I want to point out is a really cool rainbow flare, and this is really neat. You can see it in the shot here where it just gives the photo like a little bit of interest, and I really love that look that you can get from it. So when it comes to shooting towards bright light sources, this lens can be a lot of fun.
So anytime we're shooting on a really bright day, I tend to throw the camera on a tripod because then I can do double duty. I can be recording Chris, and I can also run around with the reflector, because if we've got really hard shadows, especially if I want to backlight you, it's going to look like garbage no matter how much dynamic range your camera has.
Bounce me like one of your French girls.
So if I just bring this in while Chris is talking, you can see immediately we're bumping him up about a stop and a half. And because this is just a white reflective bounce, it keeps the exact same color temperature. I don't have to worry about any kind of color shift. And we've been using these Westcott reflectors for a little while, but I was thrilled when we got the latest version because they have these handles. Not only does it make it a little more comfortable to hold, but also if I do want to reach out a little bit, it's much more rigid holding it here than just grabbing onto the edge of a very floppy little reflector, which is not ideal. So if you've got your own Chris Niccolls that you need to make beautiful, this is a wonderful tool to do it, and you can grab your own by going to fjwestcott.com or clicking the link in the description below. Huge thanks to Westcott. They are PetaPixel's preferred lighting partner.
Now, related to the sun and bright light sources, I want to talk about Sunstars on this lens. And I have to admit, when I first tried it out, just walking the streets, you know, my classic testing of maybe getting the sun behind a building or something, I was like, these Sunstars aren't very good. They're fairly nondescript, they're not very dramatic. But the key with this lens is you gotta find smaller pinpoints of light, because then shooting at night in downtown Tokyo, this lens makes cool Sunstars, and it'll do it from even wider apertures like f2, certainly all the way through the range. Little pinpoints of light will take on these beautiful star effects, and I really like that touch for night cityscapes. So if you're looking for characterful Sunstars, especially in those situations, this has a lot to offer. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this lens is not an exact reproduction of the original Leica lens. It's actually been improved in a lot of ways for modern cameras and modern sensors. You will still get a bit of that Leica glow at the wider apertures, which is nice, but certainly you don't get as much chromatic aberration. That's definitely reduced. Lateral chromatic aberration, not really an issue. Longitudinal chromatic aberration, that can be an issue. Now, I think that it's reduced compared to the original, but as you can see here, you're still gonna get that strong green magenta split, you know, and it's very hard to get rid of in post. So stop down the lens if you wanna try to control that a little bit better, but you'll definitely notice it. Okay, the bokeh on this lens, this is gonna be make or break, because this is unique looking bokeh. It'll be polarizing because it's a very strong effect, but very similar to the original lens. So the first thing you're gonna notice about the specular highlights, those hand-polished double asphericals really show a lot of onion rings in the specular highlights. You're also going to get a strong soap bubble effect here. You do get nice optical vignetting. I like the cat's eye effect that it gives at wider apertures. I always enjoy that look here. And so the specular highlights are pretty cool. Polygonal look to them, of course, throughout most of the range, but it does tend to give a quite harsh look to the backgrounds. And I'll be completely honest here, I didn't always love the effect. I mean, sometimes I found it quite distracting. For example, you'll often get this sort of double image blurred effect, and I found it just, yeah, eye-catching, but not in a great way. It would draw my attention away. Sometimes you also get this really beautiful roundness to the specular highlights, this sort of like vivid halo that shows up, and that was very much the characteristic of the original lens. And here I think, yeah, it can sometimes look nice, but regardless, the bokeh is distinct, it's eye-catching, it is sometimes distracting, but if you dig it, this is one of the main reasons to buy this lens. So now let's go to our test charts and talk about sharpness on this lens. You'd think that an older optic like this, an older design, would have some issues with sharpness, but you'd be wrong. This actually has a lot of detail. When we look at our test chart shooting wide open at f1.4, the contrast is lower, definitely, and that's again thanks to that Leica glow that we're trying to mimic, but the detail is there. There's nothing blurry about it. Now, when you stop the lens down, that changes. The glow goes away, the contrast punches up, everything looks very punchy, but it was already a sharp lens to begin with, even wide open. Now, when we look at the corners, you definitely want to focus on the corners specifically because the center will not still be in focus. This is not a flat shooting lens, but the corners, you'll notice heavy vignetting when shooting at 1.4. They're pretty dark and there's a lot of blur there even when you focus on them specifically. Stopping the lens down absolutely helps with vignetting. Those brighten up quite a bit. You're still going to get a bit of that blurry effect in the extreme peripherals, but overall this lens is doing a really nice job. Even shooting wide open, I was happy with the detail. So whether or not you like the character of a lens is something that we all have to appreciate as photographers. I mean, we live in a world now where modern optics are cleaner than ever, which is to say incredibly well corrected, always sharp, great wide open, you know, very, very good corners. And so sometimes it's fun to actually play with a lens that is flawed. And I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I mean, I really enjoyed taking these shots. I don't know if it's just that I've been forced under duress to shoot so many 35mm lenses this year that I'm acclimatizing, or maybe it was Tokyo, or maybe I'm actually really starting to enjoy this focal length. I don't know. The character of it is beautiful, and I actually really appreciate what Light Lens Lab is doing because I've had opportunities now to play with classic Leica formulas and ingenue designs, lenses that I would never ever be able to play with in reality, you know, if I was buying the originals. And so I think what Light Lens Lab is doing here is a really cool project. And look, you are going to pay a bit of money for this lens, although compared to the original, which is well north of $20,000, that's an absolute steal. And even if you compare it to other M series lenses, this is way more affordable than any other Leica lens, even the modern stuff. Remember, this is still a 35mm f1.4 lens, which is quite good at 1.4, and it's capturing that classic Leica glow with a lot of interesting character that the old Leica lenses are famous for, and those lenses are highly desirable. You can pick pretty much whatever L word you like and apply it, but a lot of photographers apply the legendary word to the old lens, and this is really giving you a very good facsimile of that, plus being a more modern and maybe better corrected lens in its own right. I loved some of the photos that I took on this lens. I really enjoyed my experience with it, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this episode. Leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. Check out the PetaPixel podcast, exact same channel, or you can listen to it on all your favorite podcasting apps. Do also consider getting a PetaPixel.com membership. It's $3 a month, $30 a year. Look at all the benefits, and I cannot stress this enough. Jaron, our editor-in-chief, is going nuts, just adding more and more perks and discounts. This thing is increasing in value, and the price per month or year is not. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you soon with more on PetaPixel.